Okay. Peace. Finally figured this thing out. Y'all students got. So I have a lot of good questions. So I'm gonna wait for some people to get on and everything. Let me know how you hear me. I got the microphone right there. You know what I'm saying? And it's very kind of hot here. So give myself some room here. Just to stand up for a little while. Uh Let me know. There's a lot of things to build on. Last session I was building and went off. Hopefully I could just at least record and build with y'all about certain things. And it could be useful. All right. Visual and vocal good. That's peace. That's peace. All right. Try and lift this up so it's a little higher. That way I could stand up and stuff. But I got here at 7 o'clock as always though. I had a student in here. There's a balance that I'm trying to achieve, so I was going to leave it off so I could personally build with that student. But now that I got this online though, and there's no students here so far, it's all up to you all that are here. So peace word 60, right? So I've been speaking since the God hour, so allow me to replenish some liquids. The slight little error I was making with the mobile hotspot, I'm still learning as I go along. So bear with me as I go. If you have some questions or builds on, the day's, degree, definitely throw it out there. Because I'm only going to be here, we have a good hour and 40 minutes, which now lately seems like a lot of time because, I haven't been able to really, build with y'all. So, you know what I mean? 13 student, willing that you got my email that I sent you. Okay. Right. Okay. Hopefully that helps though, with you being able to articulate in detail what you were trying to tell me. You know, something that I haven't been saying, though, I hope that our triangle of power, the strength that we are building on, right? How we are studying, how we are training, and how we are creating, right? Just write that in there. Right. Okay, this is important. The worth of what you were doing, you have to be able to articulate it. That way, when it is articulated, when it is put into words, you can actually show and prove that you were doing something. You can actually show and prove that you were not, and you could even um, start to realize the um, the disappointment, where the disappointment comes from. You know what I'm saying? Where is the negative feelings come from? Where is the lack of building coming from? Right? Instead of it being feelings and stuff, right? Also, too, you could be really building though, but your potential, you have such high expectations you're placing on yourself that you're not really judging the real builds that you're having, right? So that's important too. That's very important too, right? Okay. I'm actually waiting to see if I see real hip hop 216 in here because he asked me a question on the Instagram. Because at the time he asked me, I wasn't able to connect. You know, so I want to see if I answer it though. But yeah, let me go on with last week. I was talking about that's peace. That's peace, 13th student. Last week I was talking about criteria, right? And I was viciously cut off. It was disgusting. Okay. And I was talking about criteria. Let me see what I had here. And I had built that the criteria for the assignment that I'm giving, like, how do you show and prove that the true black man is the true and living God? The original man is God. You are the original man. You are the black man. You are the true and living God. It isn't just the criteria that you can answer. The assignment is not fulfilled if you just have criteria that you can answer. It isn't fulfilled if you have limited criteria and you feel that that is good enough. Okay, that's good for Bruce Lee. You know what I'm saying? That's good with the kick. You know what I mean? But that's not what we're talking about here. This assignment is a working assignment. It is an assignment to actually build your abilities as a student and to help you learn. The whole point of the assignment is not to you to completely prove that the original man is God beyond a shadow of a doubt. You walk outside and you're good forever. The point is that you realize that proving that is never forever. Never. And then you start to realize that the point of the assignment is to what? Let's talk about triangle of power. The triangle of power, right? What you focus on isn't the explanation, it is the question. Okay? The question. Okay? You need to be able to make great questions out of the insights that you have. Okay? You make shitty questions, you come up with shitty answers. And thus you live a life of explaining things, and then you're doing the same thing as anyone else. Okay? So that isn't the move. Okay? I see Saladin here, so I'm going to go through the Supreme Mathematics breakdown. You know what I'm saying? And build. Last week, I think the mobile hotspot didn't work because it didn't work in the back outside of the classroom. It works in this area here. We have light. I don't have a light above me, so it looks a little dim, but it's too hot for all that light anyway, so I'm glad it's not above me. But every single week, you should have a day of the week that you calculate and give yourself a judgment of how you were the entire week. Okay? All right? Judging this triangle of power. How well were you studying? Right? For me, often, personally, it's in my reading. My reading is never up to par for what I want it to be. And it doesn't hurt that I keep collecting more and more books. You know what I mean? But so that would be the one aspect of the triangle of power. Then the next aspect would be what? Training. As the week goes on, though, I study my training, though. having a good way of assessing my body, my injuries, what I'm doing properly, what I'm doing mindlessly, right? The parts of the training that I'm doing mindlessly, because I train a long time, right? When you train a long time, or you do something a lot, you could do it badly because you're just getting it in, getting the numbers in. So it's always reassessing. You know what I mean? And then what are you creating? You know what I'm saying? It sounds weird, but in my calendar every day, I make note if I have created something. And for me, that essentially deals with my way of life, though, which is as a writer. You know, what am I creating, right? Akemi I-Man. Peace. I don't know if I've seen you in here before. If not, let me know. I don't know. There's a lot of good people on this, right? Jude, I've seen Jude before. Word 60, of course. 13th student. All right, wise you. I didn't notice that. Peace. And I noticed Saladin, so I'm going to get into that build, like I said. Let me quickly answer that, Akemi. That's a good question. What is the difference between belief and knowledge in those who try to make their beliefs fit the evidence versus letting the evidence speak for itself? I think you lead some of that answer, right? Right? You said those who try to make their beliefs fit the evidence, though, right? I think the pieces of what insert expletive, right? Right. Here's one thing: it's never either or. One side of what you're saying, those people are wrong. Though, if you expect belief to be the proofs, another side is incomplete. They could be in the right, but they're incomplete. Letting the evidence speak for itself. Evidence, though, is proofs knowledge. The truth is that you do not just give out knowledge. You know what I'm saying? That's P.E.A.C.E, Kemi. Anytime you can, you're always welcome. That's why, whether you're in this physical classroom here at Allah School in Mecca or you're online, whatever time you could spend here, why, if you just don't care to watch it while it's going on live because you want to watch Lakers Clippers, right, and watch LeBron choke again. I'm just throwing darts, but as long as if you get something useful and you can build, right, and understand that I'm here. Let me write my email just in case they don't have the time to stay in the classroom while it's on and they want to ask me a question, right? Now, letting the evidence speak for itself means that you would just wisdom that information. The truth is that everything, understand this, being a true living God, everything is expressed through your understanding, through your self-styled wisdom that has a unique insight to it that is brought to everyone, okay? Never let that fail you, okay? Never let that fail you, okay? You're a creator. In the first creations that you will become cognizant of once you get this knowledge of self and live as a true living God is what? This idea of creating a way of expressing right and exact knowledge through a self-styled wisdom that expresses your unique understanding. The understanding I call, and I've written this in my plus lessons on it, the revelation of purpose, right? Aladdin, we're going to go back to go forward. We're not just going to slide into that swiftly like that. But I call it the revelation of purpose. Your understanding of an actual fact and how you used it mentally is truly something that is special to you. And when you have it, that's at the moment, that's when you know that you have something to share with people. Okay? Until then, you don't have anything to share. Okay? You don't have anything to share. You're just expressing something else. The truth is that the things that we learn that are true also deserve and merit our unique understanding. Okay? All right? So I'm not saying that we don't always that we always have to give an understanding. We don't let just truths that are evidence let themselves just shine and be. But at the same time, we always work to see what is our unique understanding of everything that we learn. Okay? Everything. Okay. I think I want to. All right. That's peace, Saladin. Creator creates creation. None of that is against the truths and the evidence of the truths that Allah brought, and all of his elders and the firstborn and the, you know, that taught me, and all the elders that taught me. And yet it is my unique understanding. No one has ever said that. No one has ever said it like that. So this is what I mean. This is what I mean by having a unique understanding. No one has said understanding is a revelation of purpose, and yet it is. See? Come on, man. We're gods. True living gods. Got to create something. Got to have an understanding, something unique. Got to be next level. You know what I mean? Next level with it. Okay? Okay? Real important. Okay? Let me see. I'm trying to be delicate with everything. I don't want anything to disconnect. Although I have good plugs and all that. Okay. Saladin, you were asking me to go through Supreme Mathematics again. I'm going to go through it, you know. I actually went through it today with one of the gods I was building with. One of the one of the great brothers I know, so I want to expound on it. That way it's on here to be able to rewind, okay? Right? Knowledge Allah, you said, revelation of purpose. Let's go into that so that there's some becomes okay. Right? When we teach, and so you know, when you live out supreme mathematics, you're living out something that is expressed in particular details. You will not be living any part of your life and going, I did knowledge, I do wisdom, I do understanding, I'm doing the culture now, I'm doing the power, I got the power. It's not no He-Man shit, you know what I mean? And then, all of a sudden, I am the true and living God. That's corny. It doesn't work that way. The truth is that supreme mathematics is specifically the detailing of creation in its steps. And it details the what and how does the original man, the creator, do. And it corresponds to the nature of the earth as well as the embodiment, the most supreme embodiment of creation. Okay? Right? So when I break it down for you to learn it, though, as a student, you would be learning it as a process, right? Where you would go from here to here, from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9, and then knowledge, right? 1 add cipher, right? The 0, okay? Right, Saladin, this is where I'm going, right? And you have it a little bit messed up here, so that's why I'm good. You can rewind this and whatnot, and it is in the Supreme Mathematics build. Saladin, you should have that. Let me know if you have that. I don't know if you have the Supreme Mathematics build that I have, like my plus lesson on it. But right, and why's you? I see you build on the math. I didn't forget. I'm gonna end up rewinding to go and build on that. So when I start to build, the first thing you should know is the order, the nature of the law and order of the universe. The mathematics immediately describes the law and order of the universe. In other words, the law and order of how all things are created, including creation itself. So you go 1, 2, 3. So when I break it down, though, you're describing how each number goes into the next number and how things are created, right? Okay, Real Hip Hop 216 is here, so I'm going to answer your question also. Okay? I want to do this all before the 10 o'clock hour, so we have plenty of time to do it. You know what I mean? But right. Saladin, hold that, because that's a heavy piece right there, okay? That might blow your head away, okay? You may not be ready for all that mathematical buildup. You know what I mean? Piece of the guy is Wise Jamel, Y-W-I-S-E, Jamel. And I love Wise Jamel. Remembered Imperfection. I love Wise Jamel, man. You know, he used to teach his mathematical build-up class every Wednesday. And his energy, his love for children was astronomical. It was beautiful. You know? A lot of great memories with Wise Jamel. You know? But indeed, 13th student, being in control, right? Now look at this. When we talk about the nature of creation, mathematics, and how it flows, we have to describe first and understand as a student, as a beginner student, that this goes and continues to each degree, okay? And that's what makes creation. This is the order, and by describing it, we understand the law, how it is all a law, all right? All right? Now, the way I describe it, and this is my understanding for you to get it, okay, is that we start and we look at 1, 2, and 3 as the inner. In the reality of creation, all creations are first made from what you think and how your mind works. Your mind has an original thought, an original idea that is often an actual fact, or it is using an actual fact that is learned, something that you learned. Okay. Once you have this actual fact, what happens then? Okay. Once the knowledge and you have this actual fact, this knowledge, then you are what? Time to wisdom it. Okay. And once you wisdom it, right? Then what is wisdom? Wisdom is the what? The use of knowledge, the usefulness of it. Once it is used and its usefulness is manifested, it what? It also leads to the next degree. Essentially, you could say that each degree borns the next degree. In this case, it what? Comes to an understanding. I won't use born, so it won't confuse you, but it leads to an understanding. And that's why I call it a revelation of purpose, because now what you thought and what you used in the mind, right, has come to a real insight. What I call a revelation of purpose. It is revealed. You have revealed it through your own study. No mystery of revelation by a mountaintop. Okay? It didn't come from a mount that was revealed upon you. It is your own revelation. And it is your revelation of its purpose. Okay? Now, this is the essence of the inner. Because once that understanding is expressed outwardly, right?
Where's the ladies' room?
Ladies' room is the second to last door on the right. Okay? Give me a moment. Okay, so I'm back. Once that understanding is there, it is revealed. The reason I say it's a revelation of purpose is because it is going to be the driving force that what? Brings it to the outer. And your culture is a way of life. But no matter what anyone says, though, all culture expresses itself outwardly. All culture expresses itself outwardly, whether you were doing something in closed doors or not. Okay? Something is being affected. There is always an affected person, immediately you. So now you are living out that culture outwardly. Okay? So this way of life is literally your understanding lived. That's what culture is. Right? Real hip hop 216, right? But we have to learn how to describe these things without using the mathematics to describe the mathematics, right? Okay, we can't just say knowledge and wisdom is what understanding is, right? Because we're not explaining it to anyone that wouldn't know, right? Once you are in culture, it goes from the inner to the outer, okay? Let's see if I can type this in here. All right, 1, 2, 3, inner. Okay? The culture is now lived and has an effect outwardly. That leads into power. What I call the propulsive influence? I use the word propulsive just to show that it is a driving force, right? That it is a driving force that leads out, okay? Once this happens, that is power, okay? So the culture leads to power. The way of life has its own power. And you see how these two things are very hard to distinguish. Once a culture is lived, it does have its own power. They are very difficult to distinguish. You see? Okay? I had always taught refinement in the power, and I don't, not because you can't use it, if any of you are learning here, not so militant like that, but because I feel that people use it wrong. The word refinement, connotated, insinuated, is used, no matter what we say in 120, as a synonym for culture. Refinement, if you use it in your power, does not mean that your power is refined. It means as far as it is cultured, or it has to be fixed. The power is what it is. The power is just directed. So refinement means the direction and the focus of that power. Okay? Now, when we say power is the truth manifested, that is one of the most generic builds you could ever have, right? And I don't mean you, real hip hop. I just mean in general. Knowledge is truth. If I wisdom the knowledge, I just speak it straight up. That is power. If I have an understanding, though, and I just have it in my head, I'm at a point of power, right? That understanding could be said to be power, right? Once you become privy to it and know about it. Okay, so say power is the truth. I don't say that because it's too generic, it's too basic. Okay, I'm being a hater. It's too basic. Okay, power is the truth. It's also incorrect. So is knowledge. So is wisdom. So is my culture. So is my understanding. Okay? So is God. Okay? So is my build. Okay? Absolutely, what I born is the truth. Okay? A lot of times they say power is the truth is because they are focusing on the idea that power cannot be molded. Okay? If you use refinement, and I don't teach it anymore because I haven't seen students use it correctly, it is a focus. It is a directing of the power. It is a giant gun that is just what it is. Whatever your culture was lived, Okay? It expresses itself. That is the power. However the culture expresses itself, that is the power. Okay? Everything else is almost out of your hands. However you developed that understanding and express it as your culture becomes your power. Okay? The truth is that you cannot mold the power. You cannot mold the influence that it has on people. Okay? It just is. It just will be. And that's the thing that people aren't really thinking about. But once this power is manifested, this influence manifests, it puts you, its creator, in a position of equality. What I call the proper position. Okay? A state of balance with everything you created and everything that you are. Okay? This is the outer. The 4, 5, 6. Okay? Certainly, Saladin. Certainly. Okay? All right, peace to God, Shamel. I know you get it. God see, peace, peace. Okay? Now, then we get up to 7, 8, 9, right? Once one reaches an equality, they now reach the fruit of the build, right? The fruit of this process is what? Not that you become you already were you, but you are reaffirming who you are in this process that was what? This process always rejuvenates you. So what I call it a reaffirmation of rejuvenation, right? You're rejuvenated through this reaffirmation. So rejuvenation of reaffirmation. You are who you are, the true and living God. But through this process, you have what? Come to that realization again. You have affirmed that. Okay? Okay. 13 student depends. I'm assuming that's what you meant. Depends of aspect you angle. Okay. You're going to have to give me that other aspect, though. Okay? I want you to get this aspect of something going from knowledge to born. Because what I'm saying, all things are taken through this process. There is no difference of angle here. Okay? This is supreme mathematics. And once we realize and reaffirm who we are through our own creations, then we now build and destroy with them. We change the reality that once was. We universally change it. What once was there is no longer there. We have built something anew, so we have destroyed what was once there. In other words, that reality no longer exists. So it may not have done nothing negative, like this actually break something. But this new creation is now building something anew, and what was once there is totally changed. Okay? Right? So 7. Okay, to affirm yourself is to realize who you are, to become who you are. Again, to reaffirm it, to restate it, to reestablish it. Okay? These are my words that I use. When you see my plus lesson, the entire 7 and 9 is the fruit. Okay? Once one universally changes our reality, he builds and destroys, builds or destroys, depending on your perspective, right? It'll still be the same. Then now he has born something. Because it's supreme mathematics we're talking about, it is an elevated fulfillment, okay? It's what I call an elevated fulfillment, okay? And that 0 is the special concept that shows this will never end. It represents infinity, right? Because when you get to knowledge, add on a cipher, everything that you create always takes you to the ability to create anew. Okay? Universal truth that can change be expansion, adding on instead of destruction. Let me explain this philosophical point again, universal truth. Okay? Both are the same. Okay? Let me explain. Let's use my album. For some reason, it's always my album of choice here. In July of 1995, Raekwon's Cuban links did not exist in the outside world. Okay? This is a product. They had the idea to create it, right? They saw how they would use their skills to make this particular piece and had an understanding that they were going to express, and they made it. Making it was the culture, sharing it was showed the power, and the reception was the equality, and it reaffirmed who they were as creators. Okay? If you don't like Raekwon and shit like that, insert blah blah. What they did was that in July of 1995, they destroyed the reality that existed in July of 1995. Because July of 1995, this is the world of all the music that existed, right? In July of 1995. In August of 1995, Cuban LINX arrives, and now it includes this juggernaut work. You see? So they have destroyed what July 1995 looked like for all music. Now it's all music plus Cuban LINX. They have built, but they have also destroyed what once was. So even the destroy concept isn't necessarily a negative idea. Okay? Right? I hope that makes sense. Okay? All right. So when I take mathematics through these fragments, it's a way of breaking down so you could understand the process of what is the law and order of creation. These three fragmented positions. So when you learn as a student, you go back in your life. You go back in your life and you start to analyze, what is it that I did here? What information and ideas I had here? How did I use them? How did I wisdom them? And what insights did I get? What purpose did I have to now create with these ideas? And what did I create? What was the culture of that creation? What was it? And what power did it express? Okay? Was it a powerful creation with limited power? Did it have power and lead me? What level of equality did it bring me? And how did it reaffirm myself? Allow me to change reality that I live, and that really, how did it affect all things? And how did I ultimately fulfill something in this process, in this particular thing that I am looking back on? Okay? It is a way to look back and analyze the life that you have lived and be able to plot more coherently the life that you intend to live. Okay? Saladin, why does destroy get the term destroy always get a bad reputation? Because it's negative, that's all. It's a negative term, right? It's a negative term, you know? Right? But you know, it should be, you know what I mean? You know, we are in a glorious cipher. We're in the devil's civilization. So we're in a society that is oppressing us. And because it's oppressing us, destruction is the order of the way, right? What is one of the most important books you have to research? The destruction of black civilization. So destroy is a term that merits all of the usual horror that it gets, right? And the truth is that the life Every time we destroy someone's mystery God, their concepts, we make it more difficult for people to bear witness to things like that. We also make it very, very difficult. Okay? Which is a good thing, right? But definitely bear witness that we are destroying some shit. You know? We are definitely destroying, some things. All right, I had to point that fan toward me. No one's here. Okay. Normally in the history of me teaching here, whenever these days happen like this, and often in the summer, I usually wouldn't get that many students a lot of times because it's hot and they don't want to come into this hot building. And unfortunately, the air conditioning is not really working properly. But I usually would be reading and writing. But now, because of y'all, I can really expand and offer some more things. And, questions here. Oh, I didn't even see. So, peace, Supreme Scientist, right? Supreme Scientist, you got it in my calendar every day at a particular time. I got to go on that site and get them 10 joints. You know what I mean? Every day. You know what I'm saying? Peace to the God. You know what I mean? I already was a nut getting shit. And now you got me, What a way to feed the wonderful addiction. You know what I mean? Appreciate that, God. Universal truth. Are creating and expansion the same? Expansion is often what is happening with creation. So they are not the same. One is the actual impact of it, and the other is the actual deed itself. So they're different. You know what I'm saying? Technically, you could create and have very little expansion. The expansion would be seen. Let's break it down mathematically. The creation would be seen in the understanding leading into the culture, and the culture would be the creation. That's where you see it. But the expansion, you would have to see it in the power and then the equality. What if a lot of the things I create, I don't share? You know what I'm saying? So, for example, as a martial artist, though, would be a great example. Not just like the things I write, but as a martial artist, right? So, as a martial artist, there might be some moves and stuff. Me, as it comes to some fly stuff, you know what I mean? And I'm not going to go out there and just use it. Like, I got a new move, or I feel comfortable with this new move. I got to go fight somebody to use it, though. I have to go manifest it. That's not, I would keep it for myself. So potentially, if you look at it as a direct reality, the move, that particular move being used in the outside world, it's not there. There's no expansion. However, the expansion could be subtle, where you don't see the expansion because my ability to add that move means that I am even more confident as a martial artist. So what happens is that now I move with more confidence and thus more peaceful. In other words, I know even more so. Oh, you can't f me up. Everything is good. I'm more comfortable in these situations, so I can bring more peace. There's less fear, right? And that would be the ideal martial artist, right? So the ideas of expansion have to do with power. And the truth is, what happens to the great aspects, the great lived culture, right? That doesn't have or doesn't really get power. It doesn't get or isn't empowered. You know what I'm saying? Some people create great things, but they don't empower it by the way they live their culture. They may live it subtly, right? For example, you have the knowledge of self. You're the true and living God. But then you go out there, but you don't really teach anybody, but you create great things with it. And for those that are around, you tell them and stuff like that. For all intents and purposes of the way that I was raised on it, you ain't teaching. It's kind of messed up that you're getting the fruits of that, but you're not really teaching those who you could teach, right? You keep it to yourself. So you have deliberately damned, and I mean like set up a dam, like water. You've damned the culture. You've damned it and controlled by stopping and damming the power, right? By not sharing it in certain ways or not revealing it in certain ways. We could also say that with most of the musicians that know this stuff, but they don't really share it. You know what I'm saying? Right? So the this idea of creating an expansion, the expansion has to do with power. And oftentimes the power, the more stronger you become, the more power that you can extend your own culture with. That culture is naturally in that power is naturally embedded in the type of culture that you live. And it just oozes out, right? But what about all of the great artists? What about all of the great thinkers whose thoughts didn't go out there, right? Look at the Father, a very controlled power because the whole world got this knowledge itself. And yet you don't see him on plaques and statues. And when they mention great leaders and great men, not many people know. You know what I'm saying? Not many people know, you know? And yet, any man and woman who I've ever met and didn't know about the Father, and I told them about and proved to them the things that the Father did, he's not only considered a great man, but a supreme man by anyone, you know, worth their salt, and is not a crazy mother. You know what I mean? Okay, 13 student, back me up a little bit. Back up a little bit. I'm not sure what you're saying makes no sense. Impossible to not share it. What is impossible to not share? If you say that this knowledge or creating with this knowledge or being a true and living God, like being the original black man that knows that they're God and then build things and create things and say that it's impossible not to share it, then what do you think the 10% are? You know what I'm saying? What do you think the 10% are? You think that we're the only ones that know this? We're the only ones that have put this in a curriculum, in a context for the average person to know, but it is very, very possible to control who it is that sees your greatness and the roots of your greatness. The book that you need to read, 13 student, though, then is the 48 Laws of Power, because there is such a manipulation of that you would understand. In fact, there are laws in there that they, like the laws of what was the 50th law in the 48th law? Uh, the concept of emptiness, which is a Taoist concept, which is totally misconstrued, completely misconstrued and misspoke, but used for devilishment in that by Robert Greene. And it's real, right? And 13 students, but you're right, that they're not 5%. But what I'm teaching you is not 5% knowledge. There's no such thing as 5% nation of God and earth knowledge. What I'm teaching you is true. What I'm sharing here is true. It is under the guise, though, of the integrity and honor and the banner that we come under, which is knowledge yourself as the true and living God in this nation. Nation meaning the root of the word nation, right? Etymologically, coming from the Latin root, which means what? Right? Birth, born. Okay? Let's see if I have that correct. China. I'm being really delicate. I don't want to lose the connection by moving this thing at all. You know what I mean? Using the touchscreen, real delicate and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Usually when you look it up, it's really hard to find. I tell you what the root is, but yeah. Where is it? Yeah, the old French, which goes back to Latin, be born. It means be born, naci, me be born, give birth. So it has to do with born, right? So the Latin root of nation is born. And our birthright is not only living out who we are, but expressing that under that banner, which means that we're sharing it. But you think that the majority of people, first of all, just by the 85, 10, and 5 percentage, by that proportion, the percentage and proportions, most of the people that get it, right? If only 15% of the population get it, then that means that out of that percentage that gets it, 2/3 of the people that get knowledge of self are using it despicably. 15%, right? 10 out of 15. And then the 85 don't even know. So they're, you know, Syl Johnson, old school. Any which way the wind blows, right? If you know your RZA samples, though, any which way the wind blows, it's cool, right? So it is very, 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 very possible to not share this. In fact, it is easier. It is an easier lifestyle to not share it. Okay, I'm saying that from experience. Okay, there are many things that you lose. There are many things you have to part with. There are many people and relationships that you will have that can only do it in namesake. And if it impedes the things that they would like to have, then they won't stay for too long. You know what I mean? When it sounds good to deal with this knowledge of self, but when all the rap songs are over, when all the stages have been unlit and covered and curtained, right? When the stages are curtained, how long do they last? Universal truth, Sunez. Speaking of rap, was it you that told Junkyard Juju about the yellow seed having knowledge of self? I recall reading that in an interview. That was me. It was a double XL issue, 1999. When I met Juju, he was seeking just knowledge in general. When I met him, he actually had bought a book that he was very interested in. That book was The Art of War by Sun Tzu. A lot of rappers, a lot of great artists that, you look at their content, you go, oh, look, they just know about this. Brothers like Juju, they're way, way smarter and more desiring of having a larger scope of information and knowledge. But they often, like actors, they often get pigeonholed to the success that they generated with the content that they had early on. And in this case, the content that they had early on is youth, But I was there for their album release in 1999, but I was writing a piece on them, and most of our conversation was very personal. So I started to do a more realistic journalism, something that a lot of the earlier journalists did, but in different fields. You didn't see that in hip hop. And even with a lot of the, I want to make this as educational as possible. So let me build on this, right? Because there's some things you can learn about journalism. And the more you learn about journalism, the more you can learn about how you analyze history, okay? The truth is that journalism is a history of the moment. So a lot of the journalism that was more personal, more detailed, they had already come up with those, innovations, and they were calling it literary journalism, creative nonfiction, right? You've heard of those terms. So by the time I'm writing, creative nonfiction usually often had the perspective of the author in what he was seeing, but it never embedded the author as part of the story. I always saw myself from 1995 on as someone that was making not just hip hop journalism, but someone that was making hip hop writing and creative works. So I was part of hip hop with my own element. So when I covered an artist, I was covering themselves, but I also was covering myself by how I creatively wrote it. So in this case, though, in Double XL, I decided to write what I thought was most important of the conversation. That whatever you, the reader, was going to read was going to be the most important things that we talked about, and not just things that they were asking for or that the label expected us to repeat 1,000 times. And what also pushed me was that I didn't have the actual album. I just got it, and I didn't want to spill the details of the album because then it would be an album review, and I wasn't allowed to do that. So I wrote about our conversations and what he was asking me, and how he was asking about Freedom Allah, aka Papa Wu, and what he meant in certain Ghostface in the Ghostface Killer skits and Iron Man album. And all praises due to God. Remembered imperfection, Freedom Allah. I love the God. Another great one that taught me. And through his works taught us all. And I did something that actually got me quietly blacklisted from Double XL, and that was turn the piece into a personal embedding piece. In other words, every magazine pieces in hip hop, in rap journalism, they write them as if you're just a fan, and you write them basically, so that way you are not an entity. And I didn't write it that way. You know what I'm saying? Right? I didn't write it that way. So I wrote myself in it, and I explained to Juju, because Juju asked me, saying that the third member of the crew, you know, Fashion, who would often be the third member of Beatnuts, said that Dominicans can't be God. So I went through the whole math. I went through the whole concept of who's the original man, the black, brown, and yellow seed, right? And I built with him. You know what I'm saying? And I built on the 16 shades of the original man and the universal flag, and I broke down my name. Savior of the universe now shows and proves the equality of zigzag zig, Sunez Allah. And I put that in the piece. So a lot of people read it that way. But when you meet Juju today, I know that he met people along the way and continued to add on to what I had told him. You know what I mean? But until then, he didn't meet anybody that was telling him that, yes, meet somebody that was actually in the nation and telling them that, yes, the so-called, all the black, brown, and yellow seed, so-called Latinos and stuff, especially when their heritage is absolutely African indigenous, phenotypically, genetically, and culturally and ethnically, absolutely is the true living God. You know what I mean? Right? Yeah, Sadatics. Actually, stages and cameras and lights don't affect me. Same on the stage. That's 96, because remember, he didn't go solo. His first solo album was 96. So that song, Stages and Lights, was 96. Yeah. The first album, the Wild Cowboys, 96. So that, you know, but definitely, you know, nice quote there, you know what I mean? You know, and to finish that segue with hip hop, Sadatics and Aguilar actually have an album coming out. And I had the honor of having a track on there where I build on the universal law, you know what I mean? And to me, I took the universal law to be supreme mathematics that shows and proves that the original man is God. So I kind of did a whole creative build on it all. So spoken word piece. So album probably, I don't know, album's coming out in probably a month or two. I don't know. It's called The Gods Have Arrived, and it sounds really, really good. I just got it yesterday. I didn't get a chance to tell Aguilar it sounded great, but it does. It does. It does sound great. You know? They blackballed me. In other words, when I say blackballed me, I wasn't chosen for other pieces. Often I wasn't chosen for pieces throughout all these major magazines because I was Puerto Rican. And in the 90s, understand that media was writing Latinos out of the history because they didn't want to catalog, they didn't want hip hop to be known as a music made by an African indigenous diaspora all colliding in the Bronx. Instead, they wanted it to just be simply an African American art form that goes along, with the said cliches of jazz into soul, into rock and roll, into hip hop, right? And I say cliche because jazz is heavily influenced by the Creole cultures and the reality of the influx of that African diaspora in New Orleans, which is not just a basic plain old textbook African American diaspora that we think of today. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean, though. If one day I end up at a major, it's because of the stuff I wrote by myself was too dominating. You know what I mean? Piece of the God self-magnetic. Okay. But yeah. I feel like there was something else. I never got to go into what I was talking about last week about the criteria. I mentioned the first thing, that criteria is more in the assignment. Like, what is the criteria of the true and living God? It's more than just shown, proven that God is a supreme being in the social reality of man, like a righteous man at all times, a leader at all times. It's more than that. It's the questions that you don't know. It's the assignment is to detail things like, I have no idea how to show and prove the original man through the science of cosmology. I have no idea, but one of the criteria is that the original man has to be shown and proven through quantum mechanics. I have no damn idea. This is how you do the assignment, okay? It isn't just to give me answers. Even though the answers I've gotten in the assignments I've received back have been exceptional. But that's why they've also been incomplete. Now, the second one, the second criteria thing, I was talking about an email last week, and I don't know if it cut off, that I got, a brother was talking about how he went through a long journey of going to all these different places and to get this knowledge, and came full circle back to Allah school, even though he had come here years ago. And one of the realities of that is that I'm mentioning is this idea, right, of going around. A teacher, we cannot pre-teach and let people know that, how we can teach them and that they should stay here. We're not religious. You don't have to search. They have to go through their journey by themselves. But as teachers, or whenever you find someone, be more concerned with with learning what it is that they need and want to know first. That way you can show them a way to show that this is the place to learn it scientifically, non-religiously, and without whatever environment that they need. So some people need a forceful environment. Then you show that you have that force, intensity. If they need a warm current environment, then you show that this is a structured environment, a warm current environment, but also a demanding environment, because you can never have such a warm current that you're not demanding. And it was just a reminder that sometimes the criteria has to be you, the potential builder, with a potential student or someone potential that you might want to, enlighten, you know? So that you feel that you're not saying the wrong thing, okay? But, and the third thing that I definitely got cut off was, is another email I got, and the brother that sent the emails here. What is the criteria for original versus what is the criteria for being a righteous learner of any and all things elevated? Why do we need to know these things? Okay. My notes are fragmented though. They made more sense when I was immediately using them. But here's the thing, right? Trying to get my bow ding balls and comfort myself. Right? A lot of us have trouble going through the decision though of this knowledge of self, and sometimes the criteria of what is original is confusing. Okay, there's people everywhere, all over, right, and all over the world. And as we learn about more people in the world, we're confused about who is original and who is not. And often though, like with ADOS, though, African Americans of African descendants of slavery and all that ADOS that seeks to segregate and just keep the African Americans here, and they're black and no one else is, no one knows the plight. We have to understand this knowledge of self has nothing to do with just the plight that we go through as far as oppressed people. The being oppressed is an extremely functional way of finding out that yes, you're original, because the things that you have that they had to take from you and your people show that only you had them. And that is one way to find out. But that doesn't mean that everyone that is original has to have been oppressed. It just doesn't make any sense. It is not a social construct, this knowledge of self. Okay? It is a reality. All right? When we deal with who is original, we also have the idea that some people may not phenotypically fit. For a lot of people, Sunnis might not phenotypically fit. Go through YouTube and see all the YouTube and how people call me all types of dumb shit, right? Even in the videos where I'm literally showing and proving, right? They'll say some dumb shit, you know what I mean? And trolls of all kinds have existed, right? The difference here is, right? I'm seeing the mobile hotspot. Everything is good, right? The difference is that you have to take into account, though, your phenotype. If your phenotype doesn't seem to be there, then what is your cultural reality? And does that link up to a genetic reality? If you have a culture that is blatantly African and indigenous, then why are you living out that culture? If the language that you are living out, though, is very African rooted, then it very heavily insinuates that you have original lineage, right? And you may not even know, right? A lot of times Puerto Ricans, for example, associate Jibaro with indigenous, but more of like a white indigenous. But Jibaro is actually an African-rooted tribal name, right? The reference for that, he has it in there, and he's the first I saw mention it, was They Came Before Columbus by Ivan Van Sertima, right? So what I'm saying is that you have to look beyond phenotype, okay? It is because I'm brown, right? Especially in the summer. But there could be other white people that have a completely white culture and have black lineage that they have, not only they, but also their lineage has worked to what? Whitewash for hundreds of years. So now you have to make your choice whether that whitewashing will continue and at to what level that you will say that you are an original man. It is really up to you to show and prove that. Okay? And that's why I say, like, you have to understand the criteria of what is original. Okay? It is all those criteria, right? And not just one thing. You know, for some it's easy. So some there are Black Seed, Michael Jordan, alike. You're good. But a lot of humanity isn't like that. The brown and yellow seeds will have a more difficult time. Okay? Let me see what the comments here, because if you're going a little nuts here. 79030, indeed, it's a blur as knowledge exactly what you said in terms of relationships, and that just came to mind on the other opposite side of the spectrum. Skill illustrator, look, get your Papa Woo on that. That's crazy. That's right. Aguilar, Adolf, D-Sats, Daddy Extra. Yeah, that's right. Whole album coming soon. All right, I'm not gonna read the rest just yet. I want to go back to, I know Wise, you had a build here. I'm gonna read his build really quick. See what jewels he just threw here. You know, and I know last week I only got 20 minutes and stuff, and last week I had a lot of drama, so it only made sense that I could only get 20 minutes. Though. I was tight though. I didn't even want to teach though. I was going to kick somebody's ass. But of course, though, the mind prevails. I don't know. I don't. All right. I'm just going back to see if I missed any builds. That's right. I didn't go far enough. I didn't go far enough back. Wise, you said today's math is to see things clearly throughout, not only as is, but for its value and direction, it lead one to be the greatest and best part. To be the greatest and best part. Today's mathematics is understanding cipher. Okay? The understanding, as I said, I see it as that revelation of purpose, though, but it is the essential jewel that you drive through all experience with. So whenever you get into a cipher, if you can get into any cipher and lead with your understanding, the impact is profound. Okay? The impact is profound. And it's when you do that, understand though that it is one of intense sharing and isn't always, it can be dangerous. You know what I'm saying? We are poor righteous teachers though, but understand there is a sacrifice whenever you lead into the cipher with your understanding. All right, let's go back to, I think that was the only build I missed. If I missed the build, post it again, please. Okay. All right. Saladin said, peace out. What I'd written was ancient. I thought it was appropriate. A family member got busted stealing from the store. Immediately, I thought of that work. Thank you, sir. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. 793rd. Last week, only captured 20 minutes. If not, teach God. I will. Fly. All right. Supreme Nature, peace, God. Okay. All right. Peace, Powerborn. All right. It happens 793rd. It's YouTube. You know what I mean? It's YouTube. Saladin said, ask a light-skinned Dominican if they're black. I heard someone say, I'm just Dominican. You know what I mean? Understand, though, that being critical of different original peoples because of their wrong answer is also, understand that it's going to be illogical, okay? The truth is that most of us are just used to wrong African-American type answers. The whole world is 85, mainly. So understand that the more original people we meet from different places, you are going to get a different history of oppression, ignorance, and states of blind, deaf, and dumbery, right? The Dominican is no different than anyone else, though, you know? The Latin America was given, unlike other places with slavery, was given their humanity, but in the name of the nationality, okay? They were not dehumanized as a slave in ideology and mentality, even though they may have been physically, but not mentally, the way that the so-called African American was. So, for whatever brutality the slavery was like in Latin America, the Spaniards in the Latin Caribbean, for example, focusing there, since we're talking about Dominicans, did not take away their birthright as being humans on some level that would certainly reach heaven and see that mystery God, the same mystery God that everybody has. So whoopee, they're all gonna, we're all gonna see the same mystery God. Okay, so mentally, slavery is not something that is a nature of our and a reflection of our subhumanity as the African American is brainwashed towards, but more so something, an experience that we overcame. They're both negative. These are both traumatic situations. They're traumatic situations either way. But over the course of centuries, there is more of an adaptability, or at least we could say, because it's still dysfunctional as hell, an adaptability for those of the Latin Caribbean in a kind of different way because they still have a nationhood. Uh, when a Dominican says that they are Dominican, it is not the same as an African American saying they're African American. I don't care how kuntastic the African American is, though. Okay? No shade of Dominican is actually denied their nationhood the way an African American is so hypocritically and and farcically given um, his nationhood. Okay, so it's different. It's different. You got to know the 85 isms of each of these people, and if you don't, then you're losing. You would automatically become frustrated and start to criticize the 85 instead of understanding them. Okay. The Science of Melanin. No, love that book. That's peace, Gregory. 793. That ignorance contagious in the water, as have heard about. Some say that they're not black, they're Jamaican, which can be taken as both interesting, being out of many people, and decisively self. Okay, I'm sure that you keep still typing. Yeah. But again, though, we could also see that in the English Caribbean, though. Okay, it's about the mentality. Remember, the Rasta is a minority of empowered folk in Jamaica. You know what I mean? Um, that's why Bunny Wailer was the black heart man. That was a phrase not just for him, but that was a phrase often referred to the Rasta that segregated himself out of society and made his own righteous um, living on his own. You know what I mean? The Black Heart Man. And by the way, the Black Heart Man, Bunny Wailer, that is a classic album. So, I'm always talking about hip hop, but Bunny Wailer, right? Blackheart Man. Look that up on YouTube. You'll love that album. Bunny Wailer, probably was a more not probably. He had a more beautiful singing voice than Bob Marley ever had. It's just what it is. Indeed, 793rd. You know what I mean? But understand though that unlike, let's say, Puerto Ricans and Dominicans, right? You already know, Supreme Scientist. Unlike Puerto Ricans and African Americans, we haven't been directly oppressed with this intensity that knows that all the shades of the original are to be despised and defiled and mutilated at all cost. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, of course, yeah. If you're starting your Peter Tosh collection, get the Legalize It album. Legalize it. Even if you don't smoke like myself, you still love the album. Right? But gotta start there, But I got a lot of Bunny Wailer and Peter Tosh albums. But that's where you start. Uh, yeah, so I have covered pretty much everything. We've got about 20 plus minutes and stuff. So anything that you want to ask me, please do. You know what I'm saying? Please do. Step in Razor X. I've never heard of that though. Let me write that in my notes so that way I could check that out. All right. Okay. Real hip hop. You actually asked me a question about the what was it? It was, I forgot what degree it was. If you could elaborate on the meaning of the 8th degree in 1 of 36. Yeah, I don't always I don't really care to stream only on the Instagram, by the way, because Instagram is really like a hip hop audience and stuff, and I still, even though the YouTube audience could be just as big and it could include all of them, it's more targeted toward hip hop and stuff, um, and things like that. It's just too many people that are just more curious as opposed to people that are really going to learn. So I want to have some type of, the interaction on this live chat makes it a quality digital classroom. But I don't know if I've been able to. It take me a while to develop that, and again, like I said, I use my phone a lot when I'm in the classroom physically. It's just, you know, doesn't work. Real hip hop. The concept of divide and conquer is so heavy. Melanated people, I see it a lot in different denominations of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Actually, P.E.A.C.E, how can I get a copy of your Mathematics Plus 3? Email me. Okay, that one I have ready to share. Um, I need to know where you're at with the 120 and everything. You're learning with me, where you're at. To remind me. Building with another enlightener and stuff like that. Let me know where you're at. That's it. Akemi, when you said to Saladin, to him, and that's not the brother's language. I don't know who you're talking about. You talking about me? To him and other Latinos, the word black is synonymous with African American or African experience. Are you saying that to me? Just trying to follow the flow here. But true self, I got you. Just email me. Is Leopold the I am in the 1 to 14? What do you mean by I am in the 1 to 14? You guys are stumping me. Okay, wise Tila, that's peace. That's peace. Okay. I'm not sure about your question. It's a little confusing to me. Akemi, I don't know what you mean by that. And I know you're addressing Saladin, though. I'm just curious. Okay. Let me answer that question that Real Hip Hop 216 asked. What did he say? He said, let me read it again. Could you elaborate on the meaning of the 8th degree in the 1 to 36? Obviously, the 1 to 36 being how would I describe it? A discussion between what I was taught was Fard Muhammad and possibly a judge that was not Illuminati, but was Masonic, that knew this knowledge, or, and was asking him these questions about humanity and about, the African American particularly. And the 1 to 36 particular experience, even though you can't extend it and it addresses all the original peoples in some kind of way. All right. Because it's a stage of breeding ignorance, fomenting and channeling the ignorance that is produced by oppression, and then blood sucking. So everyone should be able to relate to the 136, but not ev- but particularly the 136 really was the African American perspective. Okay, right? But definitely Latin Caribbean, English Caribbean, and even a lot of Latin America could directly relate on many levels. You know what I mean? But ask me about that Bill degree, right? The relevance, right? Because because the devil planted fear in his heart when he was a little boy, right? Planted fear in his little in his heart, right? I said little heart. Oh my goodness. Because the devil planted fear in his heart. It's his little heart. He's a boy, so he's a little heart. But I'm adding two littles in. But what is the fear that is put in there? The fear is the nature of his people that is taught to him. Like, what is the negative nature of his people? The fear is the police. The police is fear. Okay, remember the police was designed that way, right? Right. So I have to look at the institutions that are around him, the lack of education, the fact that his people created nothing, and so the Bill degree God, yeah. Um, Yeah, my Bill degree has, yeah, because the devil planted fear in his heart when he was a little boy. Yeah, not little heart, but yeah, my degree says heart. Yeah, but I gotta see. I don't. I want. I'm gonna see if because I have some other copies. I see if they're in there. I never looked at that degree like that, so I don't know if the other copies like Firstborn Princess has it or not. You know what I mean? But yeah, I didn't know that there were copies that didn't have heart in them. Devil planted fear in his heart when he was a little boy. But But yeah, that's what the fear means. You know what I mean? The fear means though, how is the fear embedded? You know what I mean? Just in the regular education of the dominance of the Caucasian, the lack of, if you teach a peoples that they created nothing, and of course, especially when it's not true, then they have a fear that everything is based on what the other man will create. The other man is sustaining him. And this is a projection. This is literally a projection because it is the Caucasian that has had the difficulty, massive difficulty, in founding societies and civilizations himself. Right? Right. And you're right, Real Hip Hop 216. You definitely are correct. I was taught that the 8 degrees about how we were made to fear the white man from the time of the indoctrination of slavery. Um, that's definitely right. I'm just giving you the ways that that fear is embedded. Right? Because you kind of said elaborate, so I'm elaborating. Right? Right. It's another good question. Saladin, you said, how do you keep the lessons current even with the change in population? Um, because the change, first off, do the research and divide out all of the mathematics there and tell me the percentage of original as far as how much the original is to the whole population in the figures, how much is the devil population in regard to the whole population, and do that for North America as well. The percentages and the proportion are going to also help you keep it current because they give you different answers. Okay, they give you different insights, right? So do that first, and then you'll see what I mean. Okay, I'm assuming you said 1 to 14, not 1 to 14. Is can Leopold II be considered the trader who established the trading post on the continent? Um, if we're looking for a personal one, yes. And if we're looking for one of the early, most distinct ones, but remember that there's many trading posts, so it becomes more of a universal answer. Okay, right? And the trading post, the trading post everywhere, so like all throughout West Africa. So it could be many, But good question. Leopold definitely could be considered an ideal example of that. Okay, mine says because the devil put fear in him when he was a little boy, and that's tomato, right? I always been quoting that though. I never noticed that some didn't have heart and some didn't. You know, you learn something new all the time. As far as planted fear, we could say the 1 to 36 is referring to the slavery, but certainly we have to say as good historians that fear is planted way before, because remember, since the white man has been here these 6,000 years, he has um, slavery and the institutions, when it becomes real institutions, is during the transatlantic slave trade. But slavery always existed, so he was always making demarcations, uh, definitions of who is what. There's Jack D. Forbes has a great book, African Americans and Native Americans, where he goes through that. So slavery was always a way of life, though, once the white man is here, and becomes something that he really manifests, in his own population. And then when he realizes that he can institute this, you know what I mean? Remember, he never really was able to institute it because he didn't have the numbers to enforce that. So does that mean in the ninth degree is about how the black man is considered big physically, but with the mentality of a child? Um, mm, yes, yeah, pretty much. I don't know if I would say it like that, like he's a child. I would say that he has those afflictions that have continued. They are afflictions that not only are from back then, but you gotta understand that those afflictions that he had since a child have been cemented and fomented continuously. So we're not attacked when we're children only mentally. That attacking never ceases to stop. So, yes, and also is the answer to that. My answer. Referencing that came before Columbus, do you look at the 1 to 36 from a first person point of view or third person? Good question, Powerborn. Because it's being taught to Elijah Muhammad, he's taking his conversation and expressing it to Elijah Muhammad, right? So in many ways, though, I would see it, though, as him giving a first-person point of view to Elijah Muhammad of how he dealt in this conversation. You know what I'm saying? Right? So in the third person, though, it couldn't be third person because technically third person, though, he wouldn't say, my name is W.F. Muhammad. Okay? So it technically is not third person. Okay? Especially how he couldn't have taught it that way to Elijah that way. Because he's the one that taught Elijah. And he's the one in it. Right? The history of this English C lesson number 1, that is something, again, all I learned with that was that it was a conversation. This is stuff that I learned from my enlightener. This is stuff that I learned from different older gods, that it was just that conversation. You know what I mean? And we don't know for certain, though, if it was a real conversation Fard had, or if it was just a perfect role play conversation. Okay? That I cannot prove. Okay? So, there is a little bit of mystery in that. But it's a good question. Good question. It's a good question for Dark Kim, too, because I don't know for sure what Firstborn Prince used to say about that. If it's the same as what my enlightener and the elders I built with told me. It would mean that he would be able to navigate among the Mason. You know what I'm saying? Now, remember, Fard Muhammad taught Elijah Muhammad to make an entire nation. So if you think that Fard did not have some type of connections to do stuff, then you're not thinking we might be thinking illogically here. You know what I'm saying? Right? Powerball. In regards to yourself, not from their part, but may that make sense? I appreciate the answer. Oh, you're saying Powerball. I'm still confused on what you're asking. Like, do I look at the 1 to 36 as far as like related to like my history when I look into it and analyze it? I'm not sure what you're asking. Okay. How we doing? How we doing? How we doing? When I build with the 1 to 36, because I have my heritage, my lineage is Puerto Rican. Um, Understand that I didn't need every part of 120 to be directly my experience. Um, I already understood that I was the original man, and I already understood when I was getting the knowledge of self that the perspective of 120 is specifically almost always targeted toward the African American specifically. That didn't bother me at all. So I wasn't looking for like myself to be in the 120 in every single degree, including the 1 to 36. But because I come from two vantage points of oppression, meaning I come from a history of slavery, indigenous genocide, survival, right? Um, and then um, also colonialism, right? Which is neo-colonialism, colonialism, and neo-colonialism. Then the ideas of a lot of the degrees, they make sense. You know what I mean? Um, the trader making it into orientation. That's what they did when they took over. The U.S. took over Puerto Rico. Operation Bootstrap also was filled with an into orientation and new curriculums of Americanization and assimilation. Right? That's piece of chemistry. Okay, I get you now. But so when I look at the degrees, I try to see how they might relate. But it's okay if they didn't relate, because I already understood and was taught well by my elders that we're not the true and living God because we go through the same oppression. We're actually separated because we went through different levels of oppression. Okay? It doesn't work that way. You know what I'm saying? A great many people will hate me, but if I'm with a black seed, they might treat me better. And that's the reality of the levels. You know what I'm saying? Power born of conversation between FARD and FBI during interrogation. You see, all of that kind of fits. You know what I'm saying? That's why I never always say it definitively. Right? Saladin piece, it was constant. One degree, one third. In my own life, it's constant reading, research lessons, the fear. Okay, okay, right. One of the great books that showed this understanding of fear is the Miseducation of the Negro. Right. A lot of people forget that book, but that is a foundational book in the 136. By the way, since we're talking about the 136 a lot, if you email me, I do have a build on the 1 to 36, a plus lesson. That one goes through certain details as opposed to explaining every degree, but details, and has a small book list to specifically study the 1 to 36. You know what I mean? So definitely email me for that. I'll definitely give you all that. I have that. That doesn't need any amending or anything like that. Real Hip Hop 216. That is personal. So email me, and how we build, me and you, is how you get the 120 lessons. Okay. Okay? And the parameters that we set for that are how we'll get it. Okay. If that makes sense. Everybody's different. I treat every student uniquely, okay, and different. Okay? All right. I have been here for 3 hours. So I will give you all 3 minutes. Okay. Even though I have a fan blasting me, it feels like exactly what it is. Hot, gusty, gross air. And although I'm wearing polo that I really like, right, it's always head to toe polo with me. I still would like to make sure that I could get to a shower tonight. But no, that's my book and had a page by page marked up black hardcover copy of that. Okay. All right. Definitely email me. Real Hip Hop 2. Anybody email me? I'll put the email again. Okay. The classroom is the beginning of your research, and should be, if you really want to be a student, should be the beginning of your corroboration and your collaboration with me. If you're getting 120, and if you really, particularly if you want to get it from me, okay, if you want to get it with me and everything, okay. So I'm actually happy that this worked. I know what I did right with the mobile hotspot, so with continued practice, I'll be able to get this right. Even still, sometimes the class will be shorter or longer as far as what gets streamed, because sometimes I have a student that I want to give personal attention to. So I'm still trying to bind those lines between those who have put their effort to come here to the classroom and learn intimately with me, and then things that I can teach generally to everybody. So bear with me as I go through those guidelines and try to like make it for everyone. Okay. But what I always will try to do is try to give you a good amount of that quality time where there is something. And I'm sure that in this hour and 40 plus minutes that there is something useful that everyone could use that can actually supplement, into emails. Okay. And we could continue building. All right. So with that said, unless anyone has an immediate question that needs to be answered right now, um, I will let you all go. Okay. And literally close the school. A lot of people don't know that many of these years that I teach, though, I am the lone man here, okay? Especially during the 2000s. So that's how it is, right? Okay, so definitely let me know. Let me know what it is you need to have. If there are books that you want, books that you would like to have, or just questions in general, let me know, okay? All right. With that said, peace.